Forward to this bill being passed by the House tonight.
Brendan Horan.
I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to speak to this, the Road User Charges Bill. And it's very interesting that the Honourable Jamie Lee Ross has done a little bit of research. I'd like to remind members that actions have consequences, and the consequences of this bill could be far-reaching indeed for the citizens of New Zealand. And I would remind members that consultation is one thing, listening and taking heed is entirely another. Now, this is New Zealand First's first vote on the bill, and we oppose it. After careful scrutiny and considering items that are transported by diesel, everything from people, public transport users, school children, to inanimate objects such as building products, chemicals, medicines, then we have household rubbish, to everything on the supermarket shelf. Now, New Zealand First also entered into discussions and listened to affected and concerned parties within the industry, including road transport freight owners, crane operators, trucking firms, large livestock carrying firms, horse trainers, individual truck owner-operators, and also members and representatives of the Motor Caravan Association. Now, without exception, everyone spoken to expressed grave reservations to this bill in the areas of fairness and expense. It is also a bill that it is fair to say many in the industry know very little about. It has been stated that the purpose of the bill is to modernise and simplify the road user charge system, to eliminate the scope for error and fraud. And upon first inspection, despite a failure to prove systematic fraud surrounding road user charges, a rather heavy-handed approach seems to have been followed in penalising everyone for the unsubstantiated, presumed fraudulent behaviour of a few. There are other goals, and they are to reduce administration, reduce administration complexity, reduce compliance costs, and to simplify enforcement. Now, New Zealand First believes that the bill has far-reaching implications that will have a negative impact within our New Zealand society in terms of fairness, affordability, safety, and even environmental considerations. Let's first consider fairness. And the Honourable Members Shane Jones and Phil Twyford both expressed their reservations in regard to the effects on small businesses and motorhome owners, and one should respect their experience. And we ask, is it fair for small trucking operators such as furniture removalists who transport large bulky items such as mattresses, pillows, sofas, and they are not necessarily heavy objects? Pray tell, how will they be able to operate profitably when they will be charged every day for heavier loads than they will probably ever carry? Is it fair to skip operators who drop off an empty skip to most building sites in New Zealand, and then they return empty to their yard, and then drive empty to collect a full skip? Surely we can find a better, more equitable way than to charge full load price on every trip. These increases will undoubtedly trickle down to the end user and add to building costs in the New Zealand housing industry. New Zealand First has concerns for the 22,000 motorhome owners registered with the Motor Caravan Association. And in talks with them, they question the fairness to suddenly have their road user charges increased, mostly doubled, and in some cases trebled, because of new bandwidths and maximum permissible on-weight charges when their weight is constant. and in most cases considerably less than their maximum chassis weight. There are other considerations within the motorhome owners in their contribution to internal tourism, and this can be seen in the many rallies that the Motor Caravan Association hold throughout New Zealand every weekend in our cities and small towns, adding to the economies of those areas. And many motorhome owners are pensioners, and dramatic increases will affect their discretionary spend and also potentially affect the resale of their motorhomes. So New Zealand First cannot in good conscience do a Pontius Pilate here and have these clear failings in the bill left to the Minister to sort out. Mr. Speaker, there are similar obstacles in this bill for those in the racing industry, where we have horse trucks continually loading and offloading animals and their frustration with the administration. We have buses, refrigerator units, and many others. There are many truckies who have invested considerable sums to purchase B-train units to be able to compete in the current sense-making framework of the current legislation. So what about them? These multi-wheeled vehicles are safer because more axles distribute the load, meaning safer driving. If this bill is passed, these operators will need full loads both ways to compete and in some cases to stay in business. This bill could very well be the catalyst that leads to every truck on the road carrying maximum loads, leading to worse wear and tear on our highways and obvious safety issues. It also has the potential to lead to more smaller trucks on the roads, again travelling with maximum weights and the challenges that I've expressed that it brings. So although this bill started with the very best of intentions, there are many holes that, pardon the pun, you could drive a truck through provided you could afford the road charges. Now to date I have highlighted the injustice of this bill, and in the same vein I would ask the parties to consider the social ramifications that drills right down from exporters to importers to the average man and woman on the street, with the flow-on cost effect. Mr. Speaker, large or small goods, even a humble can of peas travels by truck at least 10 times from seed until it reaches the supermarket shelf. Now, obviously, the cost is going to go to the end user, and with affordability stretched, one wonders how the average Kiwi mum and dad will be able to afford to buy those asset shares that we hear so much about from this national-led government. There are also environmental concerns. At a time when we are trying to encourage people into public transport, how can we introduce a cost increase to public transport and school buses? But Mr. Speaker, New Zealand First is not just here to oppose. We suggest a more equitable system of levy that is not one of one size fits all. The solution may be to look at charges at the pump. There is a simple formula here, and that is diesel is fuel, fuel is proportional to horsepower, horsepower is directly proportional to weight. So the more weight you pull, the more fuel you need. And by addressing the issue at the pumps, we would cut compliance costs, we would do away with administrative complexity and any requirement for legal enforcement. There could also be concessions for environmentally friendly engines. The new diesel engines are more environmentally friendly than ever before, and surely we should be encouraging innovation and creativity. Now, one of the flaws of this system is that the fishing and shipping industry don't use the roads, but surely it is a path that could do with investigation and robust discussion. So on behalf of all of those in New Zealand who have expressed their concerns at this bill, New Zealand First opposes it for the above reasons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Dr. Jackie Blue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to be speaking to the third reading of the Road User Charges Bill. I sit on the Transport Industrial Committee in the last term.